Welcome to the deep dive. We like to really get into some interesting stuff that's out there. Sometimes I get a little overwhelmed with how much is out there.
It's a lot, yeah.
And so we do these deep dives where, you and I kind of sit down. We've both done some reading on the topic, and we just share our thoughts and have a little bit of a conversation about it.
Yeah, sort of distill it down into something digestible.
Yeah, exactly. Today, we are going to do something a little different. We have two different things.
Two sides of the same coin, maybe?
Yeah, two sides of the same coin. Okay, I like that. One is about ethanol, the fuel source, and the other one is a local company here in Clemson called EcoBin.
Very different scales, but both, I think, get at the heart of what it means to be sustainable these days.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with ethanol. We've all seen the stickers at the gas pump, E10. What is ethanol?
Okay. So ethanol is a biofuel, which basically just means it's made from plants.
Oh, okay.
And in the U.S., it's mostly made from corn. So, yeah, you see that E10, it means 10% of what's in your gas tank is ethanol, which is made from corn.
And why do they do that?
Well, there's a few reasons. One is to boost the octane rating of gasoline.
What does that do?
Well, higher octane allows engines to run more efficiently, and in some cases, it can even lead to more power, so, it's a performance thing in part.
Okay, interesting.
But the other big claim, and the one that gets a lot of people talking, is that ethanol reduces harmful emissions and helps gasoline burn cleaner. That's where the debate really heats up.
Okay. All right. So there's, it's good for the engine. It's good for the environment, theoretical.
That's what the pro-ethanol folks say.
Right. But you said there was a debate.
Big time.
Okay. So you sent me some articles and stuff, and it seems like there's some pretty strong opinions on both sides.
Yeah. The research on ethanol is all over the place. Some studies say it's a great alternative to gasoline. Others argue it's actually worse for the environment.
Wow. So it's kind of hard to know what to believe.
Exactly. So we're going to try to break it down and look at both sides.
Okay, let's do that. So first, let's hear from the pro-ethanol group. What are their main selling points?
So a lot of the arguments in favor of ethanol come from groups like Get Bioethanol.
Yeah.
And they really highlight those environmental benefits we were talking about.
Yeah.
Reduced greenhouse gas emissions, cleaner burning fuel.
Better for the air.
Exactly.
Okay.
And they even point to some potential health benefits.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's this guy, Doug Bervin, who is like the spokesperson for Get Bioethanol, and he was talking about how ethanol can actually help us phase out some of the more harmful additives in gasoline.
Huh.
Things like MTBE. Have you heard of that?
No.
It was used a lot in gasoline, but it's a known water contaminant, so not good.
Oh, wow. Okay, so ethanol's better than that.
That's their argument.
Mm.
And Bervin also brought up an interesting point about how we switched from leaded to unleaded gasoline a while back.
Yeah.
Well, he was saying that when we made that switch, we introduced all these aromatics into gasoline.
Aromatics?
Yeah, they're these compounds that give gasoline that distinct smell. And Bervin suggests that these aromatics might actually be linked to health problems like cancer.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. And he's saying that ethanol could help us get rid of those aromatics too.
Huh. So potentially better for the environment and potentially healthier for us.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good when you put it like that. And of course, the pro-ethanol groups also talk a lot about the economic benefits.
Right. Those corn farmers, I bet they like it.
Exactly. It provides a big market for their crops. And since we can blend ethanol with gasoline and use it in our existing cars and gas stations, it's seen as like a practical solution. We don't have to reinvent the wheel to start using it.
Okay. So there are a lot of reasons to like ethanol, it seems.
There are, but there's a whole other side to this story that we need to talk about.
The anti-ethanol folks.
Yeah. They've got some pretty compelling arguments, too, and they're backed by some pretty serious research.
Okay. Hit me with it.
Well, there's this 2023 study from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. It basically says that, hold on to your hat, corn-based ethanol is actually worse for the environment than gasoline.
Whoa! Really? How is that possible?
Okay. So they're saying that when you look at the whole life cycle of corn ethanol, from growing the corn to turning it into fuel and then burning it, it actually creates more emissions than just using gasoline straight up.
Wow. That's a pretty big claim.
It is, and a big part of their argument has to do with land use.
Land use?
Yeah. So to grow all that corn for ethanol, we have to clear a lot of land, and when you clear land, you release a bunch of carbon that was stored in the soil and trees.
Ah, okay.
And then there's the whole process of tilling the soil, planting, harvesting, transporting the corn. All of that uses energy and creates emissions.
So it's not just about the fuel itself, it's about everything that goes into making it.
That's exactly it. And according to this study, it takes something like 14 years for corn ethanol to even break even with gasoline in terms of
In
emissions.
14 years.
Yeah. And if you want to actually see a significant reduction in emissions, like 20%, they're saying it could take 28 years.
Wow. So all those supposed benefits, they're like way down the road, if they even happen at all.
That's what this study is suggesting. And to make matters worse, they also found that corn ethanol production actually leads to a 24% increase in emissions from other sources. So even that potential reduction in greenhouse gases might be completely canceled out.
Man, it's really hard to keep up with all this. 1 minute ethanol sounds like the savior of the planet, and the next minute, it's public enemy number one.
I know, right?
Ugh.
It just goes to show how complex these issues are, and it really underscores the importance of, critical thinking and looking at things from different angles.
You really have to dig deep. That's why we do this. All this talk about emissions and how we measure them, it makes you wonder if maybe we're just looking at the wrong kind of biofuels.
Yeah, that's actually another point raised by the study. They argue that we should be investing more in next-generation biofuels.
What's that?
Well, instead of using corn, you can make biofuels from things like switchgrass or algae. And they claim that these types of biofuels can achieve much bigger reductions in emissions and much faster than corn ethanol ever could.
Okay, so maybe corn is just like the first step, but we need to move on to something better.
That's the idea.
Okay. All right, well, I'm already feeling a little overwhelmed by all this ethanol stuff, and we're only just scratching the surface. I think maybe we should switch gears for a minute and talk about EcoBin.
Yeah, let's go from global to local for a bit.
Yeah, exactly. This company, they're a dumpster rental company, right?
Yep, right here in Clemson.
And you're saying they have something to do with sustainability. Like, how does that even work?
Oh, well, it's not just about what they do, it's about how they do it.
Okay.
They seem to be really committed to running their business in a way that minimizes their impact on the environment and benefits the community.
Really? Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more about that.
Sure. So EcoBin, they've built their whole operation around 3 core values. They call it empathy, transparency, and sustainability. And they seem to take these values pretty seriously.
Huh. Okay, well, that sounds good on paper, but what does it actually look like in practice? Like, how do you apply empathy to dumpster rentals?
Well, for them, it's about understanding the customer's needs. So, offering flexible rental options, making sure their pricing is clear and upfront, no hidden fees.
Oh, okay. I hate hidden fees.
Nobody likes those. And they also try to make the whole process as easy as possible, like same-day service if you need it. And they use these special dump trailers that are designed to be driveway safe, so you don't have to worry about them messing up your property.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's really about putting a customer first.
Yeah, exactly. And then the sustainability part, that's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, how so?
Well, they're really focused on responsible waste management. They work with these special landfills called Tier 2 landfills, which are designed to handle certain types of construction and demolition debris.
Tier 2 landfills. Never heard of those.
Yeah, most people haven't. But the cool thing about them is that they often incorporate recycling programs and other measures to reduce the amount of waste that actually ends up in the landfill.
So it's like a more eco-friendly way to get rid of trash.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it shows that EcoBin is thinking about the long-term impact of their business. They're not just focused on making a quick buck. They're trying to do things the right way.
Okay. That's really interesting. It's kind of like what we were talking about with the ethanol debate. You know, how sometimes you have to look beyond the obvious and consider the bigger picture.
Yeah, it's about understanding the whole system, not just one piece of it.
And in this case, it's about recognizing that even something as mundane as dumpster rentals can be done in a way that's better for the environment.
And better for the community.
Exactly. So EcoBin, they're proving that it's possible to be both profitable and responsible.
Right. And it makes you wonder why more companies don't follow their lead.
It really does. I mean, if a small dumpster rental company in Clemson can figure this out.
Yeah, what's everyone else's excuse?
Exactly. All right, well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here in part 1. We've got the ethanol debate, this whole pro-ethanol versus anti-ethanol thing. And we've got EcoBin, this local company that's doing things a little differently.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
I've only just begun.
It's really refreshing to see a company that's not just talking about values, but actually living them out. It's like they're walking the walk.
Yeah, exactly. And beyond that whole sustainability thing, what else makes them eco-bin? I mean, what else makes them stand out?
Well, they've got some interesting features, like their dump trailers. They're designed to be driveway safe,
Mm.
so they're less likely to damage your property. Yeah, I've heard some horror stories about those big heavy dumpsters
Oh,
cracking driveways and leaving like ugly marks.
that would be bad.
Yeah. So EcoBin, they seem to have really like thought about the whole customer experience.
Yeah, it seems like they're trying to make renting a dumpster a little less, I don't know, stressful.
Right. It can be kind of a daunting process if you've never done it before.
Right.
But they even offer same-day service,
Mm-hmm.
which is super convenient if you're in a hurry.
Uh,
And their rental options are really flexible. You can choose the duration that works best for you.
okay. That makes sense. So, like, how big are these dumpsters? Like, what kind of projects can they handle?
Well, they've got a range of sizes to choose from. Their 14 cubic yard dump trailers are pretty impressive.
14 cubic yards. I can't even picture that.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's think of it this way. It's about the same amount as 7 long bed pickup truck loads.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot of junk.
It is. So
Yeah.
they can handle everything from like small residential cleanups to, larger construction projects.
Wow. Okay. So they're pretty versatile.
They are. And get this, they also do like gravel and mulch delivery. They use those same trailers.
Oh, wow. And
So if
so
you're, working on a landscaping project or something, they've got you covered.
that's pretty cool. It seems like they've really found a good niche, and they're using it to, provide some valuable services to the community.
Yeah. And I think that's a key point here. They're showing that you can be profitable and still be purpose driven.
Yeah.
Like it's not just about making money, it's about, making a positive impact.
Right. Absolutely. And it makes you wonder, if more companies kind of adopted this model.
Yeah, the world would be a better place.
Yeah. It's inspiring to see a company like EcoBin, they're operating here, locally, but they're really making an effort to do things the right way. It makes you wonder why bigger corporations with all their resources.
Yeah, with all their money and power, why aren't they held to the same standard?
Exactly. Like you would think that they would be leading the charge on, sustainability and all that.
Yeah, you'd think they'd have the resources and the know-how to really make a difference.
Right. But it seems like in a lot of cases, it's the smaller companies, the local businesses that are really stepping up.
It's like that old saying, think globally, act locally.
Yeah. And it's interesting because this whole eco-bin thing, it kind of ties back into that ethanol debate we were having.
How so?
Well, we were just talking about how, our choices have consequences, whether it's, the fuel we put in our cars or the companies we support with our business. It all adds up.
Yeah, it's like those individual choices, they create a ripple effect.
Exactly. And I think EcoBin they're showing us that we have the power to make a difference.
Yeah.
Like we can choose to support businesses that align with our values.
Right. Even if it means paying a little more or, going a little out of our way.
Exactly. It's about voting with our dollars, and not being afraid to ask questions. Like if you're not sure about a company's practices, just ask them.
Yeah, hold them accountable. The consumer pressure can be really powerful.
Absolutely. And the good news is, you're not alone. There are a lot of people out there who are demanding more from the businesses they support.
It's a growing movement.
Yeah. And if we all kind of work together, make conscious choices, use our voices, I really believe that we can create a more sustainable and equitable future.
I think so too.
It's funny, we started this this deep dive talking about ethanol, this fuel source that's supposed to be, better for the environment. And now we're talking about a dumpster rental company. But in a way, they're both kind of getting at the same thing.
Yeah, they're both about sustainability,
Yeah.
just on different scales.
Right. And they're both about, thinking beyond just the bottom line. It's about doing what's right for the planet, for the community, for the future.
Yeah. It's about a more holistic view of success.
Exactly. And I think EcoBin is showing us that it's possible to do well by doing good.
And that doing good can actually be good for business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've covered a lot of ground here. We've gone from, the global to the local, from ethanol to EcoBin. It's been quite a journey.
It has a lot to think about.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are your final thoughts? Like what do you want our listeners to take away from all of this?
Well, it's really kind of amazing how these two things, ethanol and a local dumpster rental company, how they can kind of spark such a bigger conversation.
Yeah, they seem so different at first.
Right. But they both kind of get it at some fundamental questions about, sustainability and responsibility.
Right. Yeah. And one thing that really struck me about both of these stories is the importance of transparency.
Transparency.
Yeah, like whether it's, being upfront about the real environmental impact of ethanol or clearly communicating, pricing and services for dumpster rentals. It seems like honesty and openness are really key to building trust.
Yeah, I think you're right. When companies are transparent, it allows consumers to make more informed decisions.
Exactly.
And it holds those companies accountable for their practices. It's really a foundational principle of a sustainable and just society.
Yeah. And it's not just about, individual consumers making responsible choices.
Right.
There's also a role for policymakers and regulators to kind of create a level playing field, one that encourages sustainable practices and discourages the harmful ones.
Yeah, that's where things can get a little tricky
Yeah, yeah.
because as we saw with the ethanol debate, even policies that are well-intentioned, they
Right.
can sometimes have unintended consequences.
Absolutely.
So it's really important to have those thoughtful dialogues,
Right.
to consider multiple perspectives
Yeah.
and be willing to adapt as we learn more, like to change course if we need to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like that old saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Oh yeah, I've heard that one.
But but that doesn't mean that we should just give up on trying to make the world a better place. It just means that we need to be smart about it.
Yeah, we need to be strategic and thoughtful and willing to learn from our mistakes.
Right. And I think, going back to EcoBin, they're a good example of a company that's kind of taking the initiative to do what's right.
Yeah, even if it means going above and beyond what's legally required of them.
Right, exactly. It's almost like they're saying, we don't need regulations to tell us how to be responsible.
Right.
We're going to lead by example.
And they're showing the sustainability and profitability.
Yeah.
They can go hand in hand.
They can coexist.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that kind of leadership, it's contagious. It inspires other businesses to kind of step up their game, and it shows consumers that there are companies out there that actually align with their values.
Right. It gives people hope.
It does. It does. Thinking back to all this research, all this stuff that we've talked about, one thing that really stands out to me is just the importance of taking a holistic view.
Holistic.
Yeah. Like, whether we're talking about ethanol or dumpster rentals or any other issue related to sustainability,
Right.
we can't just focus on one aspect in isolation. We have to consider the interconnectedness of everything.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
Like it's about looking at the big picture,
Right.
understanding the ripple effects of our choices, and striving to create systems that benefit, both people and the planet.
Yeah, I like that. It's all about systems thinking, and that's what makes these deep dives so rewarding for me.
Yeah.
It's not just about acquiring information. It's about expanding our understanding of the world.
Our place in it.
Yeah, exactly. It's about connecting the dots, challenging our assumptions, and ultimately empowering ourselves to make a difference.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you hope our listeners are left with? Something for them to ponder, as they go about their day.
Well, I think it's this: if a small dumpster rental company in Clemson can demonstrate such a strong commitment to sustainability, just imagine the potential for positive change if we all kind of embrace that mindset.
If we all did our part.
Yeah, whether it's in our personal lives or our businesses or our communities, it all starts with us.
That's a powerful thought.
Yeah.
It reminds us that every action, no matter how small, can contribute to a more sustainable future.
Yeah. It's about taking those small steps and knowing that they can add up to something much bigger.
It's about being the change we want to see in the world.
And on that note, I think we'll wrap up this episode of the Deep Dive. We hope you've enjoyed this exploration of ethanol, EcoBin, and the power of individual and collective action.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.
And until next time, keep diving deep and stay curious.